How's it going, ScrubGamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we have another deck profile, and this time we're going over the red Bulma deck I took to the webcam locals, and did quite well with. It is a fun deck, I have really enjoyed it, and it's not the most interesting one. This game's gone quite long where you're trying to hold off to be quite a defensive deck, going for things like burn just to overpower your opponent would out resources them. So it can take quite a bit, and sometimes it can take you to time, which I know like myself and not a lot of people do like, but it is still a fun deck and quite an interesting one too, because it has that just the fact that it can just keep a huge hand size, just draw without any interaction, and also prevent things like decking out just to having like infinite super combos and infinite deck size in a sense. But yeah, so without further ado, we're gonna get into the video. But first, I do want to say thanks to everybody who's subscribed. You can keep updated with my videos by commenting, or subscribing, because we are coming up to really close to 700 subs. And anytime we get to 100 subs, any level 100 subs, I do a giveaway as a thank you to all the people that subscribe to me and support the channel. And you can also even click the notification bell to get alerts to when my videos do drop, so that way you're aware of the videos I've watched straight away, or know when there's about to watch later. So thank you very much for that. So with that out of the way, let's get into the leader. Let's get into the deck, and as we always do, let's start with the leader. So with Bulma, it's quite an interesting leader. Well, it's one of the Earthling leaders, and as we've seen with some of the Earthling leaders, they're a bit weaker than the other ones because they're not as strong. So things like Fidel, we got Hercule and stuff like that. They have some Earthling leaders that aren't as powerful. They have a weaker stat. So on the unawakened side, on the front side, she is a 5k, and on the awakened side, she's a 10k. So a little bit weaker. Normally on the front side you're a 10k, and awakened side you're 15k. But in this case, it's a little bit weaker for Bulma. But it does kind of have a way to balance it out with weaker stats with strong effects. Because on both sides of the lead, it has a permanent where all your red and yellow Saiyans and Earthlings in your battle area gain blocker. So you've got ways to have cards that gain skills to help defend your leader to protect yourself, which is really nice. And on both sides, it's got a way to draw that is not very interactive. Doesn't require you to attack to draw. Doesn't require you to do anything apart from just trigger the effect. And as on the front side, it's just activate main once per turn, draw 1, and on the awakened side, activate main once per turn, draw 2. So on the front side, you just straight up just go in effect, draw 1, don't need to attack, don't need to charge the energy or anything, or do any discard a card or anything like that. It's just trigger, draw 1, and on the awakened side, it's the same, but you draw 2 instead of 1. So that's pretty nice to be able to not need to interact to get advantage, to keep it on hand size, and also have a very good ways to drop it, because it means most of the cards you play in the deck can defend you by blocking attacks. And it also has a very nice awakening in an untap 2 awaken, which is a more aggressive one, even because normally it's a more aggressive awakening where the draw 2 is a more defensive one, and then we got the middle one being the untap 1 draw 1. But this is a deck that has untap 2, just a bit, and it also has no alternate awakening, because of the fact that it came out in this series before we got alternate awakening and stuff like that. So the only way to awaken is to be at 4 less life, then you untap 2 energy and flip over. But that's very nice because it gives you more energy, you get more energy out of it, because you're going to draw 3 on your awakened turn by drawing on the unawakened side, front side, then using the effect to awaken, untapping 2 energy, and then using the effect to draw 2. So you're going to get 3 on your awaken, 3 draws, and then 2 extra energy as well, which is very, very good. So always make sure you're using your awaken for when it counts and make it the best use of it. And that is essentially the lead. It's a really good one, all the way for set 8 as well. And yeah, just a very defensive leader and a very good amount of draw built into it as well. So then we'll get into the deck. So we'll start off with all the battle cards first. And there's some very good ones in there. So we'll start with the first one being 3 copies of Heroic Duo Videl. So this is just a simple negate, and also it functions as a way to stop 2 attacks in this deck for 1 energy. Because it's a negate, because it's got counter attack, negate the attack, play this card. Very good. So for 1 energy, the attack and play this card down. It's 1k, but that's not a problem. Because remember, with the lead, it also gains blocker as well. So you can negate an attack with it, and then block another attack, potentially stopping 2 attacks for 1 energy, and with 1 card. It's really, really nice. And I've upped it from 2 to 3. From 2 to 3, because I felt I wasn't drawing this as much as I would like to, and it's a very, very good card for the meta. So I've upped it to 3 copies, and the permanent on it makes no difference because it's not really relevant. You don't care about changing power or playing the card that helps you gain that power. It's just more for the counter attack and being an Earthling. And then we have 2 copies of SS Son Goku, the Legends Personified. This is once again, this is a nice little blocker as well. Remember, most of these cards will be blockers. And this is one of the many cantrip blockers we've got. So it's just a 1 cost. When it's played, draw 1. So that's a cantrip. That's basically what cantrip means. It's just a card that when it plays, just replaces itself, just draws you a card. And it's only for 1 energy, and it is unique as well. So we're playing 2 copies because it has unique. So once you've got 1 on board, you can't play another one. But it does have a really nice activate main, and that is with bond free, meaning that you have to have itself plus 2 other battle cards on the board. And once per turn, if your opponent has 3 or more energies to cost, so 2 other battle cards on board, and your opponent having at least 3 or more energy, this card gains 21k power until the start of your next main phase, meaning that it's either a 25k attacker for 1 energy, as long as you've got 2 other cards on board, your opponent has 3 or more energy, or it's a 25k defender, which is very good. It's a very nice way to put pressure on for just a low amount. And it's also recyclable because it's a Saiyan in the deck. Remember, it could either most of these cards, if they're Earthling or Saiyan or both, and they're red or yellow, which they're mainly going to be red in this deck, then they're also a blocker to help defend your lead. It's 2 copies of that because they're unique. Then we got 4 copies of my Kingpicular Zundling. This is a card that every color has, and it's more hate on D-Magic because D-Magic's one of the few, well, actually they're coming back a bit, so it's one of the strongest sparking negates that we've had since set 5, and it's so good that Banner printed solar bullets for it to help deal with that because it's just a very good one. They just don't want to ban it because there's no reason to. So they print out these cards that have 1 drops with barrier and have a auto that is once per turn when your opponent would switch their energy to active mode, use the counter skill, which is majority D-Magic, well, mainly D-Magic, and there is one for the old blue baby deck, but it's mainly for D-Magic. Then you get to place up to 1 of your opponent's life and 1 of their energy to the drop area. So if they kind of untap energy, you crit them a life and basically sack off 1 energy to the drop. It's really good, but the main thing for that's a just added benefit for this deck. The main thing about it is that it's a 1 cost barrier cantrip. So when you play it, you draw 1, and it's got barrier, and because it's a red Earthling, it gains blocker, so you have a barrier blocker for 1 energy in this deck, which is very good, and replaces itself. So that's why I have a full 4 copies of this, because it's just good for that thing, and then the D-Magic hate is just a bonus. Then we have 2 copies of Songohan Journey's Beginning, and this one's a really nice one because it's a really nice searcher to get the majority of things you want, and that's because it's searching Unison, your Super Combo, and some of your key pieces like your Goku and some other cards we're going to see in a bit. And it's just a good amount because it's just when this card's played, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and up to 1 red Saiyan when energy costs of 3 or less, or 1 red Unison, or 1 Unison, with a specified cost of 3 among them to your hand, then add them to your hand and shuffle your deck. So this is very nice, and also it gives you a bit of shuffling as well, because there is some ways to bottom deck cards to do things, like they basically fill your deck back up and put them back to the bottom of your deck, especially with SuperCombos and stuff like that. But sometimes you're going to want to put them to the bottom but still see them later on in the game. And if you're waiting until you get to the bottom of the deck, it's going to take a good while, even with Bulma's like insane draw. So it's really nice to just shuffle the deck and also use it the way to search some of your key things you want. So that's why we have Goku. We only play 2 copies of it because it's nice to search, but it's not vital because there is a chance to whiff, unlike any cantrip that just draws a card straight up. So we have 2. Then we have 2 copies of P-Lift Cunning. This is more of a meta call because at the moment we have Android 21, the new Android 21, in the meta, which does have an 8 drop that could potentially at the end of the turn untap 5 to give them energy back after playing this big card. So every color, just like with my, has this kind of card in all colors, where essentially when it's played, you draw a card, so a cantrip, and then for the duration of the turn, if the turn player wants to untap energy by using a battle card or an extra card, they have to warp 5 cards from the drop for each card they want to untap using that effect. So essentially makes it so if your opponent wants to untap, they have to warp 5 from the drop for each one. And if you play multiple, it stacks as well. So if you play both of the copies you have in your deck, your opponent's got to warp 10 for each energy you want to untap during their turn using a battle card or a extra card. Now it really only works against the new Android 21. So keep that in mind because Bean, like, it was good against Bean, but then Bean was around to only be defensively, so it's just more of a tech choice for a new Android 21, so they didn't get too much of their energy back from things like that, like their boss card. So I mean, playing a Q2 because it's still a cantrip, but it's more just a meta pick, and you don't need more than 2 for that. Then we have one of the best cards in the deck, and that is Videl, Miraculous Aid. This is one that's like exclusive to the Bulma deck, and it is really nice and can be searched for Goten, because remember Goten only searched for red Saiyans, but this one has a permanent where this card gains Saiyan in all areas. So even though it's a red Earthling, it also gains Saiyan as well, which is very, very cool. So it's searchable off things like Goten and recyclable with itself, because it's got an effect where if your leader is a red Bulma and you choose one card, one red or yellow Saiyan or Earthling card in your dropper and place it at the bottom of your decks. This is how you like make your deck so you don't deck out and just keep recycling by using this. The bottom deck of red, one of your reds, basically, yeah, essentially red because you're not using a yellow Saiyan Earthlings to the bottom of your deck, so you can recycle them. And then when you play this card, choose up to one red or yellow Saiyan with an entry cost of 3 or less in your dropper and add to your hand. So you get to recycle your super combos. And super combos to recycle is Raditz, because Raditz is a great one, just bottom decking a card, Eunice at 4 or less to then be a 10k combo for free, and also draw 2 cards. So we use this way to put back some of these cards like our Heroic Duos, our Minds If We Lost Them, Pilafs, any of these cards, any cards that you want to kind of draw into but can't get off this, like your Earthlings, and then grab them at your super combos or any red sim to 3 or less, which is a good amount of targets. So that's one of the best things, and you can search itself, get itself back because it is also cute as I said in the drop. So that's one thing. We play 4 copies of this and 4 copies of super combo because there's no reason not to play 4. And another good card that helps recycle this and make it even stronger, like this together. You got Bunny Girl Bulma, and this is a Bunny Girl, Bulma the Bunny Girl, that's the one, is one of the best types to put them out of Videl, so you can just draw into it because you can't grab it back from Videl, so it's nice to put them back to the bottom so you can keep finding these to keep, like, get this insanely defensive wall. And Bunny Girl's very good because it's a unique, so remember it's got unique, so once you have one on board, you kind of want to block with it as soon as possible or combo off to make sure you get off board, so that way you can trigger another one that you potentially have in hand. And it also has a blocker, which doesn't matter because it can get blocker from Bulma anyway, but it's just have that possibility. And it's got a very nice also when one of your red Earthling cards, other than a Bulma, is removed from your battle area by opponent's skill, you may play this card from your hand. If you do, play one red Earthling only battle card with entry cost of 4 or less from your drop. And so you get some good types, like you can get your Ma, you can get your Vidal here. It's a very good type to just bring out one of your like Earthling only red cards, which mainly is going to be Maya and Videl, to end up looping, like bring out a barrier blocker or a card that then grabs you back a super combo during your opponent's turn, which is very nice. So you play 4 copies of this because it creates like an almost impenetrable wall in a sense. The next card we got is 2 copies of Android 17 Rebel Reinforcements. This is another way to also kind of like bring out blockers on your opponent's turn, or like recycle super combos like recycle Vidal and stuff like that. Because this is a nice little counterplay. It does cost 2, which isn't too expensive, and it is quite nice because it's all in the counter attack, so unless your opponent counters, they can't stop this from triggering. So it's a counter attack, you get the attack, play this card, then you get to choose up to 1 red battle card with entry cost of 1 in your drop and play it. So you get to negate an attack, play out any of these 1-drops, negate the attack, play out the Android 17, and play out one of these 1-drops. And those 1-drops are then coming with the skills still active, so they come out and get their effects, so like a draw card, search, whatever, whichever one you get out. And then because they're Earthlings Saiyan, then they get to also be a blocker, so you get a negate attack and then bring out a blocker. And we only play 2 because it's still a little bit costly at 2, like you're not always going to have the energy open for it. And also it's not a Saiyan Earthling, so it's not going to be a blocker as well. It's just going to come down and potentially be comboed off, or if it survives, be used as a way to attack. So that's why we got 2 copies, and space is quite tight because you don't want to keep it too low, but you want to keep it too high as well because you want to find the cards. Then we have 4 copies of Videl, Encounter and Danger. This is our counter play for the deck, and it's a very strong one because we're playing, obviously, as you can see from Goten, a 3 specified cost Unison, and Videl's a perfect one for that because, unlike Yamcha, it's not limited. And also, unlike Yamcha, it can get around Deflect because it's counterplay essentially to play itself, and it's got a permanent where you can, if you've got a red Unison with a specified cost of 3 or more in play, you can play the counter without paying its cost, which is very good. And we play a very good Unison that can maintain markers and is very hard to get rid of, so you can always be able to trigger the Spirit Boost skill because that's what you need. That's what you need to trigger the auto is a Eunice to knock a marker off for it, because his auto is Spirit Boost 1 if your leader is red or a heroine card. When this card is played, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards and they get minus 20k power for the turn. So that's very good. A very nice one to pick. And also, it's a card you can get off Bunny Girl Bulma as well. So you can play it out as his normal counterplay skill. Get it down, and because it's an Earthling, Videl is a blocker as well. Then if they use it, rid of it by effect, you can then trigger Bulma, the Bunny Girl, to then play it out, replay the Bulma, Videl, and then trigger its effect again. Because auto's not limit 1. It's just you can only activate the counter skill on it again. So you've got to do the counter skill, that's it. You can't play any more counterplays for the turn, or counters for the turn. And then you can bring it back out and still trigger all because the effects in the auto as well. So you play 4 copies of that because it's a very good one, being essentially a very good counterplay and also a blocker if need be as well. And playable off the Bunny Girl Bulma to recycle and manage your opponent's board a little bit easier. Then we have 2 copies of SSB Kaioken Son Goku Concentrated Destruction. Now this is our barrier removal because, as I keep saying with every deck, you need barrier removal to deal with it because there's some very good cards in the format that have barrier you want to deal with. And one of the most annoying ones recently is the new 4-drop Sim promo. And this was a very good way to deal with it because you don't trigger it if it's in rest mode to be able to negate the trigger its auto to negate the skills and play it, so switch to active mode so you can block again. You just get rid of it, and that's through the most of the time you're not going to be playing it for free. You're normally going to be just playing it for its activate main, but if you did want to play it by actually playing the card itself, it does have deflect to protect itself from stopping from being played. And its auto is very nice in that when this card is played, you choose all your opponent's battle cards with 20k power or less and KO them, so you can kind of board wipe. So you've got this as a board wipe if need be, but it's mainly for the activate main, which is by paying 2 red. If your leader is red, and you place this card from your hand in your drop area, that's the cost. Choose it to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and it gets minus 25k power for the turn, so it's perfect just to minus through something, but anything higher than that with barrier is not, well, there's not many things that are higher than 25k with barrier, so is hitting the majority of the things you want to get rid of, and also cyclable member from Videl, so you can always use this to keep recycling to kind of get rid of your opponent's barrier threats that are quite high powered. I'm going to play 2 copies of this because I did have one in the side and one in the main before, but I felt like at the moment, because the Sin and Yellow being quite a popular colour, especially most of the yellow decks playing that card as well, this is a very handy card to just get rid of it, so it doesn't stop negate the skills on your cards when you play out during your opponent's turn. Because remember, if you use it to negate the skills on one of your cards, that's like an Earthling, it doesn't have blocker, it has blocker negate because it has its whole skills negated. So that's why it's quite troublesome when we use that to get rid of it. Then we got 2 Songohan facing the End of Terror. This is a very nice one. Every color got a Songohan rare, and really only yellow had a very terrible one. Every other color had a very good one. And res is quite nice as well because it's got a nice way to play. It's a free cost, 15k, and being a Saiyan / Earthling, it also can come down as a blocker, and it's played during either player's turn as well because this way to play is for the activate main / battle, so allowing you to play it during either player's turn. It is limit 1 though, so you can only play 1 a turn, and it does cost 1 energy. But essentially, the requirement is if your leader is red or Master's Teachings card and your life is at 4 or less, play this card from your hand. So essentially, the effect is just to play it out once you hit 4 or less energy. And being nice is a nice way to play it during your player's turn for energy, so you can play it out and then use it as blocker for attack after the counter attack. And it does help manage bigger boards as well, because its first effect is when this card is played, you choose up to a total of 7 of your opponent's battle cards and or unisons, and they gain minus 10k power for the turn. And additionally, if you chose 5 or more cards with this skill, this card gets 10k power and double strike for the turn. So it's really handy just to, if your opponent goes wide with the board, be able to basically just neg it all by 10k as long as it doesn't have barrier, to then make it easier to defend against, because remember your leader is quite a bit smaller than most leaders in the game, and then be able to use it as a blocker as well. And not only that, you can also use it in other ways as well, using his Ever Auto, which is by paying 1 red if your leader is red. When this card is charged to your Z energy, choose it to one of your opponent's battle cards or Eunice cards, and that card gains minus 15k power for the turn. And this is really nice because red doesn't have much in terms of a defensive way to deal with Eunices often. But this is a very nice one because no real Unison gains barrier. There's only one in the Shipku deck, but that's only I think that's not really relevant because that deck isn't relevant, and also the Unison isn't really relevant at the moment. But this is a very nice way to help deal with use just one energy to play it. You activate battle, minus the Unison and everything's. So like if you're going against Golden Frieza and you have the Gohan one to swing with it at 25k, you minus down to 15k, which is a lot more manageable than 25k. And then if they drop a second one after, you can always combo this off on the board to minus up to 15k the second one, make it even more even easier to deal with. So this is a very nice card to help deal with that matchup because that was probably a little bit of a tough one because of the Unison, and that's why we play 2 copies because it's quite handy in that way. Then we've got 2 copies of Topo. Now I feel like 4 was what I was playing before, but I felt like it's pretty relevant because how it is at the moment is only against red that is a lot more difficult to deal with unless they're playing Omen. But against any other color like yellow and blue, they can deal with it quite easily because it reduces the cost of its cards. We're playing 2 because it's more a good negate for red. Because against yellow, black, or blue, or even green, any other color that isn't red, it's very easy to counter and prevent slots from even coming out or being relevant. And for 2 energy, you don't want to have that triggered. And that's why the better thing is under 17 with that kind of thing, because its effect is all in the counter play, which unless they counter isn't going to stop that. So we play 2 copies of Topo because it could be relevant in certain situations, but you don't want to have too many because it's not as great as it used to be. Then we have 1 copy of SS3 Nappa, say Might. This is a very handy one. We won't play any cards that aren't red, so we can play this, but we do side them in, but that makes this card a very easy card to side out. And this card is just a nice way to help finish off games, just having that burn. It's just almost like the secret word, just paying for to burn a card. And it can be handy as well because it's a Saiyan, so it can be a blocker after you've burnt a life as well, as a critical attacker, so you can put some pressure on that way. And it works because it's autos when you play this card from your hand. Choose it to one of your opponent's battle card, one card in your opponent's life, and place it in the drop area. So you get to choose which card in the life and crit it. And it's just a way to burn. And 4 cost is quite expensive, but then with how defensive this deck is, how it can defend itself, that's not an issue when you're trying to push life down to finish your opponent off with it as well. That's why we pick 1 copy because it's a tech choice that you can easily slide out if you don't want it. Then it brings us to something to help with our Unison, being 2 copies of Galactic Explorer. This is a very nice one just to help maintain your Unison, because Unison's a very key thing, because we'll see what it is in a bit. And this is a great way to help defend it by giving it more markers using the activate. It's got 3 activate main skills, all pretty good. And it's also 8 cost with deflect as well on 30k, so it's going to kind of protect from most counter plays. And it's mainly used for its 3rd activate main, which is limit 1. Choose one of your red Unison cards with 10k power or more, and place this card under it from your hand or battle area, and add a marker to chosen card. So it's mainly to add markers to your Unisons, and with one of your Unisons to add extra protection in being under your leader, under the Unison, which kind of hints at what Unison we're playing. And that's the main thing it's used for, but it does have some extra effects, which is one is a way to play it out by paying 3 red energy if you have 4 more energy to play it out from under your Unison. And that can be relevant because you can have it under your lead, bring it out by paying 3 to bring it out from under your Unison, and then swing with it as a 30k, and then put it back under Unison to give it a marker again to kind of keep putting the markers high and getting a 30k attacker. And it can also be not just a 30k attacker for free, but also a triple attack as well, because you also have the activate main once per turn in the 2nd activate main, which is Spirit Boost free, so you need not 3 markers of a Unison, but it's very easy to keep quite a high amount of markers on your Unison. And it's choose all your opponent's battle cards, and they get minus 30k power for the turn, and this card gets triple attack. So not only do you minus your opponent's entire board with 30k, meaning that unless they've got barrier on the cards, they're getting all minus down mostly to 0. But it also gets triple attack, meaning you can swing it 3 times for 30k, and then just pop it back on the Unison. So even though you're bringing it out and minus 3 markers, you're only technically minusing 2, because you're minusing 3 and then put it back under to give it a Unison, give it another marker, so you only lost 2 markers from it. And if the Unison pluses, hasn't plus before doing all those effects, you technically only lost 1 marker, get 3 and 3 energy to get a 30k triple attacker that's almost board wiped your opponent. So we didn't play 2 copies because it is recyclable thanks to Bedell, because to put a card back in, let's say an Earthling, back into your deck, it doesn't have a cost. It's only the effect to grab back from drop is the cost, that being 3 or less. So you can always recycle this with Videl as well to get it back if you do end up losing it, which is quite nice. Then we have a secret rare being SSB Vegeta Umbrella Power. This is a very good one because it's a board wipe, and also it's kind of pressure because it's a 40k triple striker. That has deflect and is 8 drops at the very least. And it's very nice because if you do establish a bit of a board and try to finish your opponent off, playing this and managing your opponent by 5k power for the turn means even though your opponent's weaker, you can still put some pressure with your board and with your lead as well, where they would normally be a 15k lead most of the time. And it's a great secret rare because it's a great way to finish off. I do love that the secret, like some of the colors got secrets like this, which doesn't require your opponent to put doesn't require you to put your opponent down to 8, just down to off. Doesn't require you to kill your opponent, do 8 damage. Just requires you to do 7 damage, put your opponent down to 1, and use things like this and Nappa to finish them off, which is very nice. Like you don't have to do as much work as most decks need to do by actually putting your opponent to 1 instead of actually trying to kill them, which is quite cool. And it gets through your opponent's entire board, being a unison and board, ignoring barrier, put into the drop. It's just indestructible. You don't really get around. But then again, you're red. You got a lot of minusing effects to kind of get rid of indestructible without worrying about that. So that's our secret rare choice. Then it brings us the last five cards, being our unisons and extra cards. So the first unison is the main one we're playing. It's being Baby Juvenile Parasite. This is our main unison, 4 copies of it. Searchable by Goten, which is very nice, and enables your Videl counterplay very nicely, and is a great card, and yeah, it's great tech in the Galactic Explorers to be able to put it underneath it's off underneath Eunice, give it marker, and also make use of the Unison's permanent to help use the card as protection if needed. Because the card's got 2 permanents. When the first one is if your leader is red and all your energy is in rest mode, your leader gets extra 1k power for the turn. Makes it so if you're tapped out and have this unison down in your lead, it makes it a little bit easier to combo out because you're either a 6k or 11k lead, meaning that if your opponent gets 15, you just combo 1 card, out combo it, where normally it would require 2. And just that effect makes it really handy. And the other permanent, which is a good reason why Galactic Explorer is a great tech for it, is if this card will lose a marker by battle, but from an opponent's attack, then you can place 1 card from underneath it in your drop instead of losing a marker. So the more cards you got under it, the more techie markers you got, because you have 5 markers and 3 cards underneath it, and you technically got 8 markers because you're using 3 of those cards underneath it to protect 3 markers from getting removed from it by battle, which is very handy. And its only marker skill is a +1, so it's only just ever plussing a marker to survive. And that's great because it's activate main, which is draw cards, so gain an extra card a turn. So technically on your Awakened side, you're drawing 2 from the lead and 1 from this to gain 3 cards a turn without doing any interaction. And then you get to choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and place it under this card, so you're taking away something from your opponent, a threat from your opponent's board as well. And then this card gains 10k power for the turn, meaning you get a 20k attacker out of this as well, which is very, very handy. So it's weak powered on the defensive side, being defensive, but it's got a great effect in the permanent, being able to use cards from underneath it to avoid actually losing markers to keep it long lasting. And then it's got ball removal, draw power, and a nice little beat stick as well in its other effect, and also more defensive capabilities in the extra 1k to leader is actually really relevant. Now I did say we got 2 unisons, and the other unison we have is Kingpicular Giant Force. So just like with the Nappa and SSB Vegeta, we're trying to just like grind your opponent resources and just like burn them down. And this unison is very, very nice because it's a free specified cost searchable by Goten. And the Galactic Explorers means you don't have to pay as much energy to trigger its -4. You just need to pay 3 energy, use the Galactic Explorer, and then have enough energy for this other effect. And at the very least, it's a 19k dual attacking criticals. You can get 2 swings of it and critical as well to put some pressure on. And the -2 is irrelevant because it's just you just activate main, choose up to 1 of your red leader cards, and it gets 5k power until the start of your next turn, which isn't really relevant. You don't care about that. What you care about is the -4. And that's activate main by paying 4 red and any other amount of energy. If your leader card is red, deal X damage to your opponent, and X is basically the extra energy you pay after the 4. So if you pay 5 energy, that's 4 for the skill and 1 extra energy, and and then you do 1 extra damage. So any more energy you pay after 4 energy is how much you do that to your opponent. So if you pay 8 energy, that's 4 for the skill and 4 for the damage. So you can do very well by just using Nappa, Vegeta, and then you finish off with King Piccolo. Because all you need to do, especially if you leave your Awakening turn to when you play this as well, you can pay 3, Galactic Explorers put up their marker, put itself underneath it, they give it their marker, put it at 4. Unawaken, so you've only paid 1 energy technically for it, and then pay however many energy 4 plus to help burn off as well. So if you get in later turns, this becomes more devastating. So if you put enough pressure, and with some decks pushing themselves down to lower life, you can kind of like get them to do the work for you, which is cool. And that brings us on to extra cards. And now there's only really 6, and we got 2 Wolfang Fist, 2 Violent Rays, and 2 Testing Opposition. So Wolfang Fist is very handy to go with the Unison, be able to pay for free, and help minus things and make surviving attacks easier, because you just choose the attacking card. If your leader's mono red, you just choose the attacking card, battle card, or leader card, as long as it's not attacking battle card or leader card. Ignoring barrier and minus it by 15k for the turn, meaning that anything 50k or less just gets minused if it's a battle card, and anything else you just minus it down and make it easier to deal with. And in combination with some things like Videl and Gohan and stuff like that, you can minus it down even further, just kill it in battle as soon as it attacks, get rid of it, which is cool. And as I said, it's got a permanent where if you've got a red Unison in play, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying energy costs. So that's one extra benefit of that. A free way to use the counter to make your opponent's attack a bit more bearable. Then you got 2 Rays, even though Rays got a limited, not a limited, but a rated. So now it doesn't hit 20k or less battle class Unisons, it hits 30k or 30k, no, 30k, not 20k or more, but now 30k or more. So it's less powerful than it used to be. It used to be very, very powerful. But now it's just use more as attack, either as just straight up free, like a 1 cost negate, just a hard negate, or a way to deal with like swings. Like if you go against someone playing Golden Caller, you just keep this in your hand, use this as a way to stop their if they charge a huge amount of Z energy to your Z energy using the effect. You use this as a way to just end the attack, stop it from attacking any further, and then absorb it under Caller. Because a good thing about Caller is it doesn't hit it doesn't remove Unison, just your battle area. So the user can then just next turn, once it's lost barrier, suck it up, and now you just then go plus a card from the Unison, plus 2 from the leader, and just carry on as you were. And if there are ever swings where they're swinging with like if you get any decks where they're swinging with big things multiple times, you got this a good way, but it's more just a hard negate and then a tech choice, so it's an easy way to side out. And then 2 Testing Opposition, where even though the token negates aren't as great with things like a yellow sin, be able to come in, just make them irrelevant by just swinging, and then be able to negate the token, so it's no longer a blocker, and then go ahead and attack with it again is quite strong. It's still a good negate, especially when your opponent leaves you at 5 energy, 5 life, tries to push you from 5 further, with like some double strike or triple strikes. Using this to then get yourself down the 4 so you can then awaken when you want to, and defend yourself a little bit easier is very nice. And the good thing about this one is, just like with the black and green ones, these tokens have combo power at the very least. So that's the main deck. So it's a 52 card deck, so you don't want to you're gonna draw a ton. So even though it's got 52, there's actually 2 cards that make a difference, because you're still drawing for your deck very, very quickly and very, very fast. So that's not going to make much difference, and it just allows you to put more cards in for the deck to make use of. And we have the Z-Deck as well. So we got some different cards in Z-Deck. So we got the 1 copy of SSB Vegeta, so you can, if you need to awaken, you can have this as a way to awaken, push yourself down from 6 to 5, so you can have a token negate to help you awaken, or down from 5 to 4, so you can actually awaken as well. So it's pretty nice. You got 2 copies of Rush Attack. Like, you don't Z charge as much. You can charge quite a bit with the use of super combos, and then use this way to put the super combos in the drop, so you can recycle them with Videl. But you don't spam this out a lot and get the full use of it. So we've only got 2 copies because it's still a very strong Z card. Then we got a copy of Defender of Life, another way to like burn without use if you don't see Nappa. And this is a nice one to get your opponent down from 4 to 3, so you don't have to waste getting from 4 to 3 with your other cards in main deck, and also function as a blocker as well, and even like some pressure as well. Not too bad to get freezing energy to trigger this as well. This is a very nice card. Remember, because yeah, the red Z battle cards and the yellow Z battle cards function as a blockers as well at the very least. Then we got a copy of Ultra Instinct Son Goku, I'm thinking Onslaught. This is a very nice one because it's got 3 very good keyword skills, being Deflect, Barrier, and Door Attack. Deflect and Barrier being 2 very strong keyword skills that should be together on the same card. Should be either one or the other, but hey ho, Bandai printed cards. So it comes down as a literally unstoppable protected card, so you can't really stop from coming out, and it's got a great bit of protection. And it's a 20k dual attacker, so it gets 2 swings in, which is very handy. And free Z energy is not much, and free energy is not as much because you get a barrier blocker, and that can attack with. And I say it could be a blocker as well, because remember it does get blocker with the bomb with the leader's permanent, and also it's got a nice auto, which is the only relevant skill on it outside the keyword skills, which is the second auto, which at the end of your turn switches card to active mode. So you can play this out, get 2 swings of it, helping you deal with like some bigger things you want to get rid of for unisons that are not 2 cost or like 3 cost or higher. And then use this to restand and then be able to block with at the end of your opponent's turn as well, which is very, very nice. Well, under your turn, which is very cool. I do like this. I was tend to put up to 2, but it's not often I get, and 1 is normally enough. If they manage to get rid of it, they get rid of it. That's fair. And speaking of EverBlockers, we also got Android 17 Impeccable Defense. It's never useful Z card that helps you like defend yourself quite a bit because it's a barrier blocker, so it doesn't have deflect like Goku, but it's still a barrier blocker. And this blocker is relevant because it's not a Saiyan, so unlike the rest, the Ever Red Z cards, it's not going to get it. Won't gain barrier blocker from it, so it's good to have blocker itself. Free ZNG and free energy is not too bad, and the only relevant skill on it, well, when it's played, it can't be code in battle, which is fine. You're only playing this during your turn anyway, so it doesn't matter in that aspect. But it's more the activate battle, which is limit 1, which is during your opponent's turn. So it's called active mode, meaning you can get 2 swings at 25k. A blocker is pretty good, and abilities block 2 attacks. 25k is very handy and a good choice in this deck if you really need it. Like that's one thing with this deck is that a Z deck is for any situation that could come up and be useful. And then we got 1 copy of Fidel, Daughter of the World Champ. If you need removal, this is a very nice one. It does have unique as well, so it doesn't matter because you only got to play 1 of these cards because it's 1 cost, it requires 2 Z energy, and it's just a form that get removal. Because it's also as if there are 1 or more Earthling cards in your Z energy, which you can easily get because there's a lot of Earthlings in the deck. When this card attacks, you choose it to one of your opponent's battle cards with 15k power or less. KO it, and this becomes a 15k attacker for the turn. So it's really nice to get that removal, and very easy to have it just accessible anytime. And 15k is more like situation when you feel you need it, but yeah, it's just more options. That's one nice thing about Z-Deck with some of these decks is that it's more like situational options that you have. So that's the Z-Deck, and then we have the side deck. Now the side deck can differ depending on what people want, and this is basically just my example of what I have for my Z-Deck. So if you don't agree with it or want to go with something different, then it's entirely up to you. You can either use the same Z-Deck or you can do it for your meta or for different metas that you see. Like metas are quite different for different regions, as we've seen with most of the events so far. Not every region has the exact same decks or like exact same dominance of certain decks and stuff like that. So do take this with a grain of salt. This is just some options. This is what I've got for my side deck, but you can put different ones if you want to. So we've got 2 copies of Vegeta, Eunice, and Might. This is a very good one to help, well, another way to burn as well, the -5. So -5 if your opponent doesn't have any battle cards in play, you can do 1 damage to your opponent. Nice way to actually do damage, but it's mainly for the second skill, which is plus -2, activate main, until the end of your opponent's next turn. If your opponent will play a battle card using a skill, they place it in the drop area instead, meaning that your opponent can't cheat out cards, they have to actually hard cast it by the actual cost of the card. This is very handy against some decks that want to try and need to play things out by skills. And even like it's not the greatest against ones that play out early, but if you can hold them off, which this deck can do quite well, you can then make it so your opponent can't have to always hard cast whatever you want to play. And if they're playing big things, then they might not be able to play much due to this card. And at the very least, it's got a nice little +1, which is activate main, draw 1 card, so another way to draw cards, and gain markers. Then you choose up to 1 red battle card with entry cost of 2 or less in your hand to play it, and that's quite handy because you can play out blockers to help defend your leader and this as well. This is very nice. And in the pair of this, you also have, well, there's another card, but we'll get to it in a bit. But we do also have 2 Oceanus Shenron, Negative Energy Explosion. This is a way to help if you want to go for a longer game and go against another deck that draws quite a bit, but they can't recycle their deck to stop them from decking out like Bulma can. You can use this as a good way to negate, and this is very handy against yellow than it is against everyone's because most of the other Most of the other colors that isn't yellow have a cheap way to kind of like stop this from being played. Because the counter attack, you need to stop the card from actually being played to stop the floodgate from going off. Because the floodgate is all in the counter, not the auto. The auto just replaces itself in its like own little deck. It's more the floodgate is in the counter. So unless you can stop the card from being played, which yellow doesn't do well apart from unless it wants to pay free for the caller counter, which it doesn't always want to do. Any other cards really stops it from playing by like put into the drop or put into the drop or warp, so it doesn't actually hit the board because it needs to hit the board to get that floodgate effect. So more against yellow, you want to use this to kind of like use it as a turn stopper, because if they Tyrannical Blow, stops it from having blocker, but the floodgate is still in effect to make a mill 4 for every attack after that. So unless they want to use caller, which in the other terms you can use this as a good way to kind of like defend yourself a bit, or later on forcing to use free energy you might not wanted to use. Yeah, just often. But remember, if you do side in things like this and cards that are not red, do side out the Nappa, because it's not as it can't be played if you've got any of these cards in public view, meaning any area that's public knowledge. Then we have 2 copies of Bardock. There's the card I was thinking that Oceanos was, which pairs well with the Unison, and that has Bardock Strategic Mind. This is a nice one because it's a 20k Saiyan with the flag, so protection and coming down, and a Saiyan who gains blocker from the lead. Free cost as well, so it's not that expensive, and it's got a nice little way to help keep your Unison around longer, because if your leader is mono red, when this card is played, choose up to one of your red Unison cards and add 3 markers to it. Because that's red's interaction with unisons, is by minusing the power or adding markers to it, which is very, very cool. And Bardock's a nice way to just, if you have like play Vegeta or any other unison you want to get markers on and defend, Bardock's a very good way. So if you want to go focus on your unison strategy, keep that around, your opponent's really trying to get rid of it, you got this as a good way to keep it around by defending it and give it markers as well. Just like a little package you can slide in together. Then we got 2 copies of Black Smoke, keeping it negativity. This is really for barrier removal that the Goku can't really get through. So like battle cards that are 7 or less that are higher than 25k power, or for two specified cost of unison strategies, or if you want it as more draw power as well, you can use it for that. But it's mainly for removal of 2 specified cost or less unisons, and of cards that Kaioken can't remove in just one go. So essentially that. Then we got 1 Jiren Swell the Fittest. It's just if you go against blue and they try to use the turn and tide strategy on you, you want to have this to help deal with it, so they don't just get rid of your huge hand you just spent time getting rid of and building, and then try and clap you while you've got no hand. This is basically just for turning the tide, just if you get blue and you feel like turning the tide, pop this in your deck. You need 1 because you can draw through a load, and you can also have chances to mulligan it as well. Then we got 1 Mecha Converter as well, Broken Seal. This is to help against decks where they're like quite linear or want to hold off certain cards like secret rares or cards you know is going to come down and hold them off, because they have to deflect to make it so it's harder to actually like stop. You can't really stop it with deflect, and then when it comes down it gets the effect to just call a card cost and a card character to stop them from playing that during the next turn. It's more just to prevent if you feel like a certain card's we want to stop that, want to hold it off for a turn, you can have this card as a way, and it's 15k attacker or combo power. You can, if you wanted to, add in a copy of the Dark Dragon Ball, the red Dark Dragon Ball for Broly, so you can grab it off this and then be able to put that card back with Raditz and then use that as a way to get advantage and have that as an easy charge of 5k like power boost if you want to, but that's just if you want to go the extra bit further to be very techy with it. Then we've got 1 copy of Master Roshi Martial Virtuoso, where you have a focus on getting the unison down and keeping the unison live, like keeping it live with you to help you get that extra bit of protection, using Vidal and the power boost, stuff like that. Roshi's a very nice one because it's got a nice counter attack. Remember, the skill is all in the counter attack. So if you have a red unison in play, as the requirement, your opponent can't attack with battle cards with 25k power or more for the turn to play this card. So this is a nice way to like just use it on the attack. You can't block with it same attack you use it, because it's not on the board ready to be use this blocker before you get to use that. So do bear that in mind. but you can always use this as a nice little floodgate to stop. That's like a more useful floodgate of Violent Rays, where it can actually be combo power on like Violent Rays, but this requires Unison, so this is a nice little card to help deal with if you need extra ones, or if you feel like the extra Unisons or the extra card Violent Rays is not going to be as useful. This is a card you can put in. You could even main this instead of the Violent Rays, but I feel like Violent Rays is a little bit more useful for against things like Under 21 and stuff like that, where they can remove your Unison quite easily, or a little bit easier. Then we have 2 Brody Crown for against some decks that keep open energy. It's normally against against blue. It's mainly for blue because now in most ever decks, like yellow's got more counterplays now to counterplay it. Blue does have it, but then you're forcing them out, and if they keep too much open energy, you punish them, or at least force them to do things that they don't want to do to avoid you looking at their hand. And yeah, that's why we put it in the side deck, because it's not as strong as it used to be, but still, if you're against blue, you want to use this to have like peaks at your opponent's hand, and you can always recycle it to keep punishing blue decks to kind of go a bit of hand control route as well. Then the last 2 cards we got is SS Vegeta Exploiting Weakness. Now this is one that I'm finding it could be handy against when you get if you go in for a very late game, use this as a way to if your opponent tries to go for a wide board, like you keep holding off, use this way to minus your opponent's board by 20k and give your leader a 5k boost and have it as a blocker as well. Like, I'm finding more of this against Android 21, where if they're trying to go, not a new Android 21, if they're trying to go late down the road, trying to establish a board and drop multiple of the 8 drop down and stuff like that. Or if they drop Turn the Tide and you don't see Jiren, you can have this way to drop it. Yeah, is my personal favorite choice for it, because the free energy defensively is not that bad, and yeah, just having a minus for your board and giving your leader a boost for the turn is quite handy, and being a blocker is actually quite useful. And remember, it's only 3 costs, because as long as your leader's red, you reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 2. But that is the deck, that is the main side and the Z-Deck. And the main thing you're going to want to have for the first few turns is just cantrips, so you can play out the blocks like Mize stuff, so you can make use of your energy to play down cards that then gain blocker, to then defend yourself, draw cards until you get turn 3, drop the baby Unison, and then for then on you're just defending, grinding your opponents out of resources and using the burn effects to kind of burn their life down and basically trying to out-resource your opponent, essentially is what you want to do for the deck. But that's the deck though, so if you have any questions or suggestions or anything, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. And that's it for today. So thank you for watching, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.